Let's get this session started. So, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about the cloud opportunities for cloud providers and partner transformation. And I'm joined by Stuart Wilson from IDC to bring in some really core content, European-focused content to help you with that. And then I'm going to be covering Cloud Director and how Cloud Director can help you with those opportunities. So just a quick round of introductions. Myself, Guy Bartram, Director of Product Marketing for our VMware Cloud providers. I'm based in the UK, as you probably can tell by the accent. However, our team, our marketing team is pretty much globally distributed. I manage all of the cloud provider products within the whole product user guide, but particularly close to my heart, as probably most of you know, is Cloud Director, our core platform for our cloud providers, Cloud Director Service, Cloud Director Availability, all of the plugins and ecosystem infrastructure, and we'll be touching on quite a lot of that today. Stuart, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Guy. Hi, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. It's fantastic to be here today. My name is Stuart Wilson. I'm the Research Director for European Partnering Ecosystems at IDC. So very much focused on the partner ecosystem across Europe, looking at partner business models, looking at the process of partner transformation and how that's being driven by changing customer demands as well. Been with IDC for 3 years, but been covering channels, partnering, ecosystems and alliances around the world for 20 plus years. So really looking forward to today's session and getting through a lot of material with you in a relatively short space of time.
Thanks, Stuart. And Suki, I know you're online. Are you able to make a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Suki Birchenough. I'm the EMEA lead aggregation manager, supporting our aggregator led segment of business. So supporting all aggregations across EMEA. So here to support both Guy and also Stuart during the course of this session today. This really is focusing on not our enterprise cloud providers here, the likes of the NTT, the Rackspace world. This is more about focusing on the local cloud providers in markets across EMEA, helping you understand how to actually transform or monetize new services within your business, leveraging the VMware Cloud portfolio. So hopefully this session will be informative and also helps you plan going forward with new services and adoption of our technologies. But please feel free to use the chat window, the Q&A window to ask any questions. The session will be recorded and made available later. Thank you.
Thanks, Suki. And with that, like Suki said, remember the chat window is just for chats, good mornings, good afternoons, and whatever else general conversation you want to have. Please use the Q&A window for questions, and we will try and answer the questions as we go. If not, Stuart and myself will leave some time, hopefully, to address some questions at the end of our presentations. So with that, Stuart, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, of course. Let me just share my screen. Please confirm when you can actually see that, Guy.
Confirmed.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much. I'm really pleased to be here. Many thanks to VMware for the invite to speak today. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation, especially the Q&A. Keen to make this as interactive as possible as we go ahead. I mean, the first thing I say is that there's never been a more exciting time to be a partner, especially if you are cloud credible in terms of what you bring to market. But what we're seeing is the relationships and the interactions between vendors, aggregators, partners, and customers. These relationships and interactions have never been more strategic in terms of driving mutual success for all parties involved. But it's never been more complex as well. We're seeing these new purchasing models, these new consumption models emerging as well. So what we're going to do today is try and cover some of those underlying trends that are driving this shift towards cloud, but also looking at the short, medium, and long-term impact on partner business models as a result. As mentioned in the introduction, I've spent 3 years at IDC, but been covering channels and partnering for 20 plus years now. And throughout that time, I've had a significant focus on the role of partners. And it's really important here to think about the role of partners and the function of partners and how that is changing, because all partners have choices. with regards to their future direction and strategy. But these choices that partners make need to reflect what is happening from a customer perspective as well. What do your customers want? What do the customers you're not currently working with want? How do they want to purchase and consume? These choices extend to the vendors that partners commit to as well. Choices do have consequences. As a partner, it's really important to think about which vendors are truly able to equip you with the flexibility and the adaptability needed to serve customers today and tomorrow. Like I said, we're going to cover a lot of areas today, so feel free to put some questions in or even reach out after the session if you require further info. A copy of the deck, I believe, will be made available to everyone that's attending today's call as well. So just to set the scene, we always have to set the scene by looking at the demand situation. What we have seen is that the last couple of years have been incredibly turbulent. No one foresaw what happened, what is happening, and what will happen as we go through 2022. The impact of COVID on partnering and the vendor, distributor, partner, customer dynamic has been really significant as well. But in relation to European IT spend, what we're going through now is different. When we look back at this historical chart, we go back to 2008 and the economic crisis that happened then. IT spending plunged more than GDP dropped. But in 2020, when GDP contracted, IT spending growth still showed resilience. The growth rate of European IT spending reduced to 2.9%, but it still grew. And this is a really important point to make. The GDP went down in 2020, but IT spending went up. We saw this accelerated adoption, digital products, experiences, and services. We almost saw this decoupling of IT spend from GDP trends. But why was that happening? And it's because IT spending became almost mission critical to all businesses, regardless of where they were in their evolution or even how healthy their business was. For companies that were struggling, IT spend offered potential solutions to problems. For companies performing strongly, IT spend offered opportunity to capitalize on their competitive advantage. IT spend became more central to every part of the business, to every process. What we saw was there were obvious spend areas to cope with the impact of COVID, enabling remote working, moving to cloud, building digital resiliency, looking more closely at security. But now we've come through that. We've got a lot more issues and problems that we're facing now globally. We've got geopolitics, we've still got COVID, we've got supply chains, we've got currency, we've got inflation. So now we have to start thinking about what comes next. What investments are companies going to be making moving forward? How can we as partners help them as well? Make sure that that spend is being targeted in areas that are actually helping them in terms of their business health. When we actually look at the IT spending environment in Europe, we do see a positive picture at a European level. This is based on survey data from March, a customer survey. We see that half of customers are talking about the same levels of IT spending as 2021, a quarter higher and approximately a quarter lower. And this looks like a positive picture. But as a partner, you need to ask yourself, how does this correspond to our existing customer base? Which verticals, which geographies are our customers in? What is their spending trajectory? And why does this matter? It matters because not all partners are equal in terms of how their customer base will align to this picture. And the other layer of complexity is to really start thinking more deeply about the buyer personas within customers. Where does the IT budget sit within the customer? And increasingly, we see partners of all sizes seeing this need to almost move beyond the IT department to actually start talking to different buyers that are more motivated by business process improvements as well. But we're talking about cloud a lot today, and it's really important to understand that cloud is a driving force behind this positive IT spending picture. When we look at digital transformation spending in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, we see this 24% compound annual growth rate for cloud-related DX spending between 2020 and 2025. We see a 12.5% rate for non-cloud related DX spending in the same time frame. When we look at the total IT spend picture, we see cloud growth in EMEA consistently outperforming total IT spend growth. And these trends paint a really powerful picture. You have to think about how they align to your business model. How much of this market opportunity can you capture? And if we go even wider, we look at the worldwide picture, By 2025, IDC is predicting that spending on cloud and cloud-related services will exceed $1.3 trillion US. If you're not in a position to capture that spend or facilitate that customer spend, you will become less relevant to customers. Customer behavior is changing. We see this resilient IT spend scenario is increasingly focused on specific areas and solutions. So when we look at the predictions that IDC made for 2022 in its global futurescape, this one stands out. It's saying that by 2024, these digital-first enterprises that enable empathetic customer experiences and resilient operating models will do this by shifting 70% of all technology and services spending to as-a-service and outcome-centric models. So think about these terms, outcome-centric and as-a-service, and how this translates into your value proposition to customers. You have to start offering them these real, tangible business benefits and also this flexibility in the offering as well. What does it mean for you as a partner? When we talk about flexibility, do you have a range of propositions that can be deployed or positioned to meet the precise needs and requirements of each individual customer? Are you helping them build resiliency and flexibility within their business model? We've seen huge shifts in customer purchasing behavior over the last 2 years. The days of the long drawn out sales cycle for a project that feeds into a 4-year transformation roadmap, that's increasingly gone. Customers increasingly want solutions that focus on clear, tangible, and relatively quick business outcomes. And to really achieve this as a partner and to start having those conversations with your customers, it's important to keep trying to climb up that technology value stack to make sure you're moving into those areas that actually respond and align with this narrative that customers are asking you to deliver to them. What customers want is time to value. We're seeing this in the crossover of business and technology. Business needs are driving technology spend and an emphasis on the solutions and also the partners that can highlight this, but that can also show quick returns as well. We mentioned it earlier on about digital first, and we use this term a lot within IDC, and people say, okay, that sounds great. What exactly does digital first mean? Digital first means approaching any new opportunity or problem with a view that the solution should be as digital as possible. And this means customers using digital services powered by underlying digital platforms as much as possible. And we're seeing this become more apparent in the European customer base. It's manifesting itself through more organizations adopting a digital first strategy. We're now in a situation where 80% of European customer organizations are starting to execute or are already on a digital first strategy. This data came from January 2022, so it's relatively recent. But start thinking about how you align with these digital first strategies that your customers increasingly have. Now we know the wider market situation. Let's delve into what this means in terms of changing customer needs and behaviors. The first point to make here is customers increasingly want flexible purchasing models. As organizations move to a digital first strategy, how they want to purchase and consume technology changes. Subscription and consumption is the first choice for more than half of the organizations that we surveyed. We're also seeing this increased interest in value and outcome-based pricing. There is an array of choices and models that are now available to customers and that customers expect their partners to offer. But you have to think carefully about this as well. There are still 21% who prefer perpetual license and maintenance. You still want to satisfy them. This is the picture we see for organizations of all sizes. So what we wanted to do today was say, well, how does this change when we look at this question just for SMB customers? So as we drill down to SMB, the simple answer is it really doesn't change that much. It's a relatively consistent picture. So what does this tell us? It tells us that customer organizations, regardless of the size of the business in terms of headcount, they want and expect the same buying options. And this sort of fundamentally challenges the idea of segmentation by customer size if customer size is related to headcount. This is being challenged by digital transformation. So be really careful of imposing sort of sales models and engagement policies with your customers that are based on a segmentation that's built on constructs that are less relevant now. We are now increasingly looking at which verticals a customer is in, what is the actual tech intensity of their business model as well. These are becoming much more valuable in terms of segmenting customers and getting a deeper understanding of your customer base as well. The idea that cloud trends are increasingly consistent, regardless of company size, is a really important one to grasp. So we look at this from the multi-cloud survey that was carried out last year. We see that 2 in 3 European customers already have a hybrid cloud approach. When we sort of drill down to the headcount, yes, we still see a slight preference for organizations of between 100 and 500 employees to work on-prem or in co-location and not use public cloud. But the other point here is that continued importance of hybrid cloud approaches and that growing importance. 68% of all organizations have a hybrid cloud approach. So think about this as well. This high tech intensity digital natives with low headcounts that can drive significant consumption. The one advice we always give to partners is build this deeper understanding of your customer base moving forward. It's absolutely vital now to build that trusted relationship, to build that long-term continuous engagement that is becoming more important as we move towards cloud-centric business models and everything as a service. What we're also seeing is multi-cloud becoming a growing focus for companies of all sizes. When we look at this, so if you look at the left, you see the 100 to 499 employees. So you see that 21% of European organizations with 100 to 499 employees have extensive use of multi-cloud services. Now, obviously, this goes up slightly to 26% for 500 to 999, 29% for 1,000 plus employees. That's not unexpected. But when you look at the scale of that change from left to right, it's minimal. We're seeing greater conformity amongst customers in terms of their preferred IT environment across the spectrum. So if you're a partner serving SMB customers, this needs to be a call to action as well. Can you truly deliver this hybrid multi-cloud IT environment that more of your customers want or are moving to if they're not there already? Look at the vendors in your portfolio, such as VMware, that can really articulate and enable compelling propositions around hybrid and multi-cloud as well. Because customers are embarking on their cloud journey and they do need the help of partners. We often talk about the skill shortage in the context of skills within the partner ecosystem. But the other dimension to consider here is customers are also feeling this skill shortage. There are skill shortages within the customer environment as well, especially for smaller customers who can't afford to have a big, well-staffed IT department. Customers want support from partners throughout their cloud journey. 34% want support at the assessment and planning stage, 49% at the migration and integration stage, 37% at the management and optimization stage. This partner engagement is also your opportunity to build lasting customer relationships and truly become that trusted advisor. So when these customers are actually looking for partners to work with for a cloud project in Europe, what are they actually looking at? When you look at these percentages here, it's important to remember that the companies we survey could choose up to 3 answers. When we look at the overall picture, we see comprehensive offering, favorable pricing, vendor portfolio, and multi-cloud capability scoring highly. And if we drill down into the 100 to 499 employee space, we see a very similar scenario. Pricing is slightly more important to the smaller organizations, as is working with a recognized brand and also recommendations from peers. But think about how this applies to your customer base and really get rigorous and scientific in understanding each customer's motivations and market to them accordingly. Marketing now is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's important to not do it by customer size, but think more about the vertical, the growth rate, the geography, the tech intensity, the funding stage, the strategic roadmap, the existing IT environment. All of these variables feed into what that customer wants from you. The more you understand the customer, the more you can build a value proposition that's actually going to resonate with them. Partner success in the future requires better customer mapping and targeted value propositions based on individual customer needs. But when you think about those attributes, you also have to think about where to focus your energies as a partner. Partners should not try and do everything themselves. It's really important today because there are so many different directions you can go in. Some partners can end up as, we call them, a jack of all trades and master of none. You don't necessarily have to try and do everything yourself. We've seen this rapid increase in partner-to-partner collaboration in recent years. Knowing where to build your own internal skill sets and where to focus is a business skill. It's don't try and do everything, accept there is a skill shortage in certain areas, and look at how partner-to-partner collaboration can actually help you expand your solution portfolio, strengthen your customer relationships without overstretching yourself as an organization. What we've highlighted here is the fact that 50% of partners already offer app modernization services. A further 29% plan to add it to their portfolio in the next 12 months. This data was taken from our European partner survey in the summer of 2021. But look at the columns on the right as well. Over a third of partners looking to develop data center transformation, IaaS and PaaS capabilities as well. What we're seeing is increasingly the evolution of partner focus areas is customer-led and customer-driven as well. So let's switch gears now and look in more detail at the process of partner business model transformation. We've seen these key trends reshaping the technology industry. The evolution of the partner landscape has been a constant, and this process of digital transformation is reshaping customer demand and driving change in partner business models. But what's happening now is this process is getting faster, more challenging, and more complex. It's being driven by technology change and customer change as well. How customers want to buy, consume, and engage with partners is changing. Their options are increasing. They're looking at marketplaces. They're looking at everything as a service. But it also opens up more options for the entire partner ecosystem in terms of how they develop their business, how you move forwards. I said at the beginning, this is about choices. This is about having a clear strategy of how you look to evolve your business model to reflect these trends and respond to these trends in future. Because we're doing partner surveys every year across Europe, we're able to ask similar questions and actually see progress around specific areas. So by asking similar questions in 2018, 2020, in 2021, we can track progress of partners. So if we look at the percentage of partners that are investing in building a portfolio of next generation technologies, we see about half of partners are investing in this, building in areas such as AI, ML, and big data. But what's interesting, where we've seen a big uptick, is in specialization. Specialization, which flatlined between 2018 and 2020, saw a big uptick in 2021. So what's driving that process? We think it is to do with marketplaces, ecosystems, co-creation, collaboration, partner-to-partner engagements as well. We also think it's to do with cloud-enabled solutions and the ability of partners to market, sell, provision, and service remotely. It's not just a case of encouraging partners to specialize and meet specific customer needs. It's also for you as partners to understand how you can now surface that specialization and make full use of it across multiple geographies, across multiple industries as well. We see a similar significant rise in building up services capabilities that jumped from 39% of partners investing in this in 2020 to 52% in 2021. This aligns with how central services is becoming to many partner business models across all partner types. We now don't try and segment partners by type. We look much more closely at their activity mix, the balance between sell, serve, and build activities. As we move to everything as a service, it means all partners need to become service providers as well. We've been talking about partner transformation for a long time at IDC. This goes back to 2018 when we launched the Partner of the Future framework. Many partners have already begun their transformation journey. Partners are more resilient and adaptable than we actually think, but there are some partners that are still behind the curve in terms of their transformation, and many reach a tipping point in their business model where they can't resist this need to transform any further because it's becoming essential because of the needs of their existing customers. This is all great in theory, but we need to see how does this actually map onto the real evolution of partner business models that we're seeing. So again, we can go back to the partner surveys that we've actually done to actually see how this maps onto that partner of the future transformation framework. And we've highlighted a couple of areas here. Look at customer success that's jumped from 15% actually investing in developing a customer success organization to 43%. And the share of recurring revenue as well, going up from 36% to 54%. And look at the bottom as well, selling via a cloud marketplace, a huge increase. Only 4% of partners selling via a cloud marketplace in 2018, up to 64% in 2021. This takes us on to the next stage of the partner of the future framework. Over the next decade, it's not going to be enough to have skills in next generation technologies. Customers want to work with partners who can help them build out new digital services and products. It becomes much more of a co-creation process. The emphasis is really on driving digital innovation with customers. So it's very important to think about how your transformation maps on to these future elements of the partner of the future framework. And the borders between different partner types will continue to blur as well. And what we'll also see as customers actually modernize and digitally transform, the projects will become smaller, more tactical, more focused, looking at specific use cases. And as a partner, you have to be incredibly close to that customer to be part of that continuous transformation process. And this is all about anticipation. I borrowed this from a colleague in North America, so it refers to ice hockey. But the principle is clear. It's about thinking ahead. It's about planning accordingly based on the shifts that are occurring. I'm more interested in soccer and football, and I coach a kids team that my son's in. The hardest thing to teach them to do is to make intelligent runs off the ball, to anticipate what is going to happen and plan accordingly. So what are these intelligent runs for you to make as a partner? One of the key trends we're seeing now is the rise of new flexible pricing models. Make sure you have these models within your offering. Make sure you're able to offer these to customers. The key point here is offering what customers want. Even if only 10% of your customers want true consumption pricing, make it available to them so they're not tempted to look elsewhere. And the other thing to think about is the importance of customer success. As the way your customers purchase and consume changes, the importance of customer success rises. We move from project-based engagements to long-lasting relationships. In Europe, 43% of partners already have a customer success organization, and we expect that to continue rising. Because as recurring revenue focus grows, the business approach needs to change. The strength of a partner's business model is increasingly tied to their renewal and retention rates, their ability to drive upsell and cross-sell throughout the customer lifecycle and make sure the customer experience is optimal. This is a real change for some partners. It's a real shift in terms of thinking about how they engage with customers. When we sort of drill it down, it's really this key point here. Customer success is this combination of customer experiences and customer outcomes. That's deceptively simple to look at, but it's very hard to achieve. How do you make sure you stay with your customer every step of the way? How do you ensure that by working with you over and above anyone else, that customer sees that engagement with you as their pathway to success? And this is harder for some partners than others because we have legacy business models. In some partners, there are traditional revenue streams, organizational inertia, financial constraints. All of this can impede the transformation process, but it's really important to see that bigger picture. I also wanted to touch on the value of aggregation today, because aggregation does play a critical role in these changes that we're seeing. I make no apologies for the simplicity of this slide, but it needs to be reiterated. The role of aggregators is vital. This aggregation, integration, and dissemination function, this can span hardware, software, and services. But it's important that aggregators do this both from a downstream perspective and an upstream perspective, providing value to both the technology vendors they represent and also the partners that they serve. It's in a complex vendor and partner landscape, aggregation really acts as the glue that enables the technology ecosystem. And we don't think this function is diminishing. We think this is becoming more important. But you need to make sure you're working with aggregators that can really deliver value to you as a partner. And what we see is the value that aggregators deliver is becoming a very long and complex list. And aggregators have to decide where they want to play, where it makes sense for them to play from a financial business perspective. So when you look at these factors on the right of where aggregators are adding value, think about your own engagement with an aggregator to understand if that is actually what they are offering you. But also find out how aggregators can help support your transformation as well. Because aggregators are invested in the successful transformation of partner businesses. They want the partners that buy from them or use them to be successful. It's very much a symbiotic relationship between aggregators and the partners that they serve. So when we started thinking about what does this mean for aggregation, it's really important to think strategically about these three evolution paths that aggregators are on. They have to be ecosystem centric. The value delivered by aggregation needs to map onto the unique needs of each vendor and every partner they serve. And it also needs to be platform enabled. Efficient aggregation and dissemination at scale requires robust platforms. And it also needs to be data driven. Aggregators can play a key role in seeing what is happening from a multi-vendor and multi-partner perspective as well. Aggregation continues to provide huge value, and we do see that continuing. But we also see challenges because there are changes in customer buying behavior. But as it is at the moment, we see this combination of aggregator and partner as being a very powerful vehicle to respond to those customer changes. So when we start to pull all this together now, what does this all mean for the partners listening in today? The choices in front of you really relate to your direction, to the opportunities out there, to your strategy moving forwards. And these choices are wider than ever before, but choices can also be confusing. Too many choices in front of you can lead to indecision and stalling on the transformation process. So what we would say is be customer led. Think about your existing customer base. Think about the net new customers you'll target. Listen to them, understand them. Think about the verticals they're in, the issues they face as well. How can you assist them on that digital first journey that 80% of them are already on? And the second thing to remember as a partner is the process of partner transformation never, ever ends. It's a continuous journey. You always have to be looking ahead. You have to be making those runs off the ball. You have to be anticipating. The third point here is around enabling flexibility and outcomes for customers. We are living in a more volatile and uncertain world than ever before. We thought we'd lived through uncertainty with COVID for the last 2 years, but that may actually be the calm before the storm, because on top of COVID-19, your customers are also faced with geopolitical issues, currency inflation issues, supply chain issues, skill shortages. How are you as a partner going to help your customers navigate through this? How are you going to help them build resiliency into their business model? The way through this is to prioritize business resiliency, both for you as a partner, but also for your customers. Focus on that flexible engagement with customers that drives clear business outcomes as well. And the fourth point here is around customer experience and value across the customer lifecycle. The future for next generation partners is services led and based on long-term continuous engagement and strong recurring revenue streams. Make sure you're working with vendors that enable you to go down that road with your customers as well. As consumption and purchasing models change, customer experience is everything. It determines renewal, retention, cross-sell and upsell, which drive a healthy partner business. As I said, the choices for a partner can be overwhelming, and that's why aggregation has a pivotal role to play in supporting partner transformation. Think back to those new areas of value add that aggregators provide. Access and use those resources as much as you need to, because that is the secret to accelerating your own transformation. The combination of partners, aggregators, and vendors such as VMware is a powerful enabler of partner transformation. But partner transformation requires energy and commitment, and only you as a partner can bring that to the table. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll hand back to Guy. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Stuart. Excellent presentation. We haven't seen any questions yet, so if people want to ask questions, please use the Q&A box. Stuart, perhaps you could hang on and just keep an eye on that for us and answer them in the Q&A box as I progress on to the next topic.
Yep, absolutely, Guy, no problem.
All right, thank you once again for your presentation. I really enjoyed that, and hopefully our cloud providers did as well. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to look at why a VMware Cloud Director cloud, and we're going to discuss some of the attributes of Cloud Director that really directly map to the message that Stuart's just been talking about. So first of all, just a brief thank you for your partnership. We continue to grow 41% year on year, which is amazing. We have around 1,200 providers using Cloud Director, our core platform, across 123 countries. We actually have about 340, I think, VMware Cloud Verified partners, which is really the kind of pinnacle of recognition that we provide. And 4,800 of you across the globe. It is really the fourth mega cloud. And once again, I just want to say thank you for keeping with VMware and using our solutions to deliver services to your customers. So let's look at the cloud provider platform then, and this slide really kind of sums it up. You've got various different platform services here. Along the top, you've got infrastructure as a service, networking as a service, security, data protection, containers, monitoring and management, and storage. And within each one of those, we have either solutions that we provide directly, or we have solutions from our ecosystem partners. And this is a real comprehensive catalog of capability that you won't find on any other platform. Even the hyperscalers struggle to deliver some of the capabilities that Cloud Director does. And we do things differently, right? We have resource pools, which are very different to kind of a per VM model. So some of the new things here, infrastructure as a service, obviously the VMs, VApps, clusters, virtual data centers, high availability auto scaling. Auto scaling is in addition to Cloud Director. It's a simple extension, which is provided for free. We also have now GPU from NVIDIA. So you can address those AI ML requirements your customers are looking for, and dynamic resources, particularly in terms of security. My one hope for all our cloud providers is that you establish a zero trust security posture for your customers. And you can do that very simply. Out of the box, you get edge firewall services with NSX. You can easily uplift these to distributed firewalls. And the dynamic nature of that would be dynamic firewall policies. We know our customers' virtual data centers don't stay still. They're spinning up and spinning down workloads all the time. It's good to have a level of automated east-west protection against those workloads, as well as your traditional north-south firewalling. Networking has constantly innovated. Obviously, we've been through the change from NSX V to T, and we're continuing to deliver better migration capability and more functionality as a service in Cloud Director exposed from NSX T. And also things like AVI, NSX Advanced Load Balancer from AVI, where now you can uplift to kind of things like web app firewalls and take care of Kubernetes cluster environments as well with ingress firewalling. Data protection mostly comes from our ecosystem partners. However, we have Cloud Director Availability, which provides protection for disasters, which is a very simple solution to deploy, very simple solution to use, and we've seen that grow massively in our Cloud Director base over the last couple of years. We've got down to a 1-minute RPO now. Is extremely competitively priced against others, and provides that simplicity that customers need to be able to protect their workloads between your clouds or between on-prem and cloud. Monitoring and metering services obviously provided by the vRealize plugin, which is called Tenant App into Cloud Director. But obviously you can use vRealize Suite and provide additional upsell managed services around applications and supporting specific customer services. And in storage, the new big thing here is object storage services. Through partnership with Cloudian, we can deliver now object storage as a service. And that combined with Veeam, for example, for backup and restore, you can do things like data immutability, which is a really cool protection against ransomware, where you make the data objects within the buckets immutable, i.e. they can't be changed, so no one can encrypt them. And all of this is delivered really as a catalog of services in Cloud Director based on our core VCF footprint of compute, networking, and storage. The evolution of this is that the infrastructure is fine, but customers need applications, and we've made quite a lot of application innovation. Here are just some of them. There's over 200 applications in the VMware marketplace, and these can all be delivered simply through Cloud Director using an application called App Launchpad. You can deliver all of these applications for free. We offer the Bitnami Marketplace and VMware Cloud Marketplace to our service providers. And this really brings application platform as a service capabilities, where your tenants who want to use these applications don't necessarily want to understand the underlying infrastructure or security. They probably got no idea of what's underneath there. They just want to use an instance of Apache, for example. So this ability allows you to pre-curate the applications into specific t-shirt sizes, maybe with security, storage, and networking all pre-configured. So the user just simply clicks, I want one of these. It then presents the user with the pre-curated questions that you've created. They fill it out and press go, and then the infrastructure is up and running. So this is a great way of upselling more applications to help your customers on their app modernization journey, and particularly things like AI, ML, and Kubernetes Helm charts. But this is also extensible. You can design your own applications and publish them into the App Launchpad. You can also pull in third-party applications into the App Launchpad. You could also allow customers to create applications that they publish back into the App Launchpad for their customer, the internal customers in their organizations to consume. So a really rounded solution that brings together that DevOps, app modernization play, and infrastructure application platform as a service. So let's just talk a little bit of some of the challenges that we see. As Stuart's talked about, there are more and more changes in hyperscale than we can often keep track on. An example of this is, the changes in pricing in Azure, in ExpressRoute, in SQL database, in managed hardware security modules or HSMs for key vaults. Basically, there's lots of price changes all the time. But also beware of price reductions, because often there is a lower amount of infrastructure associated with a price reduction. So be aware that a reduction is not necessarily always a good thing. And hyperscale product portfolios and SKUs have really grown. We see huge volumes of SKUs, new SKUs coming into hyperscales. Way too many for any organization to keep track of. And this basically increases complexity and is going to mean that you're going to have very tight controls over how your tenants and customers utilize the hyperscale infrastructures. And customers are at a crossroads. We call these the 5 R's. What are they going to do with their estates? Are they going to retain them, do nothing, wait until a more suitable solution is available? Are they going to retire them? They're going to end of life them in that data center and perhaps do a data migration to a SaaS solution. We've seen that as a very common use case for our cloud provider partners, doing things like retiring a customer CRM on-prem and migrating their data set into something like Microsoft Dynamics, for example, where then the customer then gets the pluses of mobility and the upgraded application stack. They're going to rehost, move their entire application stack to a new private cloud or a hosted platform. They're going to re-platform. That's rewriting the application. This is where the complexity starts happening. Rewriting them for a new container infrastructure. And this means that you're going to need skills in that particular application requirements, and obviously in things like Kubernetes and container technology. Or they're going to refactor it completely. taking a monolithic architecture and revamping that into perhaps a microservice technology based across what we're seeing more and more of, hybrid application clouds. So this means that certain parts of the application will run in different clouds. It really is the best application execution venue. And cloud is typically, as Stuart alluded to, the destination for more and more modern workloads. However, we're still seeing a lot of private cloud, a lot of on-prem cloud. That isn't going away. And all of the data that we see indicates that private cloud for larger enterprises and larger businesses who can probably most likely afford the footprint is here to stay and is actually growing. However, there are app modernization plans in play, building containers in cloud, deploying in cloud, and we're seeing quite a lot of that as well, but also deploying and testing containers locally. So there's a real mixture of where modern workloads are going to end up. And Kubernetes is the choice that VMware has sided with for all of our Tanzu portfolio and our app modernization play. And Kubernetes can be delivered on top of a VM. You can deploy Kubernetes onto a VM. It can be delivered in the cloud. It can be delivered locally, and some people even use it on their PC, perhaps for test and dev purposes. But generally, it is looking to be deployed as a VM, and that VM could be a Tanzu-based architecture, so removing the need for the actual VM, but using the hypervisor with Tanzu, where there are massive efficiency gains in terms of speed and performance, and obviously all the goodness around VMware security. And as I said before, mixed mode is now the delivery standard. We have many customers, typical customers have multiple clouds. We're seeing more and more app modernization strategies move to a hybrid application existing in and across multiple clouds. There's some reasons for, very valid reasons for using a hybrid cloud approach, not just for the applications, but also for infrastructure. Individual cloud capabilities are largely the most important factor. This is not surprising. You've got multiple clouds with lots of different choice. You need to run your application in the best application execution venue, and that may mean spanning it over multiple clouds. Some customers are looking at it as a way of optimizing their spend. Again, be careful of optimization from a pure pricing perspective. Always look under the covers at the actual amount of resources you're going to get from a cheaper SKU. And typically complexity. All of our enterprise environments are 20, 30 years old. They are full of legacy stuff and very, very complex. Moving them to cloud is very complex, and they're not going to be able to move easily into one cloud. That is a strategy that has been and gone. We've seen many enterprises now pulling their workloads out of public cloud because of cost, because of performance, because of security and complexity. And lock-in is a concern. So customers want the flexibility of cloud. However, security is still a big challenge. Application refactoring is a big challenge, and migration is still a big challenge. So security, like I said, every cloud provider should be considering a zero trust standpoint as the de facto standard for their cloud environment. This is really to be able to then extend the capabilities of things like malware protection, IDS, IPS, and becoming more able to provide MSSP services, so managed service security provider services. Application refactoring, that is really a case of skills and resources. Understanding also the different clouds and what they're capable of, and the pluses and minuses of running in each different environment, because each different environment has subtle differences with architecture, networking, and security. And migration, if you're migrating to a non-vSphere hypervisor, it's complex. You're going to have to separate the disks. You're going to have to do disk conversions. It's a risky operation. It takes time. That is a one-way journey. And migrating to a vSphere cloud is far easier if you're coming from a vSphere standpoint. So cloud security, again, I can't emphasize this enough. 27% of organizations experience a public cloud-related security incidents. The large majority of that was due to configuration, human error, basically. And that going forward will continue to be the largest majority of customer security outages. Data files inappropriately used by or shared by a user, again, that is around permissions and configuration. Account compromise, that's really a difficult one. That's around phishing and that's around enablement and just teaching your customers how to protect themselves, or vulnerability exploited. Keep up to date with your versions. We do see a lot of our cloud providers still running old versions of vSphere. Many old versions are still in production. Out of support versions are still in production. You can't address the modern market with out-of-date solutions. You need to upgrade. You need to upgrade from a security perspective, and you need to upgrade so you can start deploying all of the new functionality that VMware and other vendors are providing. Customer perception around hyperscale is the only destination is wrong. There are key factors around cost, hidden costs. Often customers cite 2 to 3 times more costly than expected. Complexity, multiple options, multiple SKUs. A lot of them lack ground to cloud, although that has improved. But again, it's more of a one-way journey. Locality, the hyperscale data centers span globes. They're American companies typically, and subject to the Cloud Act of 2018 and TREMS 2. So, you need to talk to your customers about the benefits of running their cloud with you as a sovereign need, right? To keep the locality of the data within the region, and also to provide, customer intimacy. Customers don't get much intimacy with hyperscalers. They are a commercial mechanism to provide a result. They are not the VMware kind of cloud provider support mechanism. They lack that intimacy with customers and really understanding what their customers are trying to do, because they don't have that support relationship. Performance, lots of latency and compute issues have been seen, and that obviously then impacts applications. Risks, migration complexity, as I said, and cost to do migration, and the risk of migrating to a totally different architecture and security. And looking at Gartner data, customers need a cloud that is future-proof. So some of the top strategic technology trends in 2022 are around AI ML. There is a lot more AI ML coming, and we expect to see a lot more adoption of enterprise. That is going to create competition. That is going to create much more growth in AI ML applications. Distributed enterprise, like I said, this is going to be a big play. Distributed enterprise and distributed applications. As customers modernize their applications, they will distribute them. And enterprises are already fairly distributed with multiple clouds. And cloud native platforms, this is only just going to grow, right? I mean, everyone's destination is cloud. So clouds that provide cloud native functionality are going to support the digital initiatives of those customers. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the solution. We have different personas within our cloud provider program. We have what we call cloud builders, we have cloud IT, and we have app platforms. Cloud builders are more, the infrastructure-centric cloud providers, typically, come from hosting environments. Their aim is to deliver infrastructure, make infrastructure more efficient and consumable, and then deliver perhaps managed services on top. Versus the other end of the spectrum, the app platform. This is really around application centricity. And as Stuart was saying, this is around gaining the partnerships, skills and resources you need to capitalize on the application modernization opportunity. So each partner has their own journey. Some want to build their own cloud infrastructure. Some want to expand into a vSphere-based cloud like a VMware Cloud in AWS, or more recently, Google Cloud VMware Engine, or other VMware-based hyperscalers as they come on board in the future. Some want to add managed services for public and private clouds, and some simply want to be a born-in cloud and white label their cloud offering for other providers that have no infrastructure at all. We've really positioned our Cloud Director portfolio to kind of cover both ends of the spectrum. For Cloud Director, that's around building private and public clouds in your infrastructure, delivering your services within your infrastructure. And then Cloud Director Services is about expanding that into public cloud environments, other VMware supported hyperscaler instances, and also for born in the cloud providers to just white label Cloud Director Service and start delivering services. And Cloud Director and Cloud Director Service are the same code base. One is just run on-prem, Cloud Director, and the other is run in the cloud and managed by VMware Cloud Director Service. Fundamentally, they both deliver the same output. Building Kubernetes clusters as a service, building S3 object storage as a service, delivering automation with Terraform provider, infrastructure as code, delivering GPU as a service with NVIDIA and AI and ML. Running containers, we support Tanzu natively in Cloud Director. So containers are a first-class citizen, just as VMs and VApps are. We have that huge marketplace of applications that I spoke about. We have the ability to publish additional third-party, custom or homegrown apps, and deliver compute, network, storage, and security as code, as well as run obviously your AI ML application services for your data scientists, including AI ML applications tuned to the GPU cards from NVIDIA, and also the operators, which are essential to providing the GPU services. In management, reporting as a service, out the box, you have Tenant App with Cloud Director. Tenant App talks to vRealize operations, pulls back stats regarding the Cloud Director instance for your tenants, and provides you with a really simple way to provide simple dashboarding services to your customers. You can extend this very easily and provide custom reports in Tenant App, where you can generate a report, push the URL into Tenant App, and the customer can then launch that report in context. This is a great uplift for managed services and managed analytics services. You obviously have chargeback if you want to provide visibility on the bill to the tenant. That is also available in Tenant App. And then you can uplift your offering with the supported vRealize application packs to provide more in-depth application level monitoring for perhaps managed services. Connectivity, Cloud Director connects to most hybrid endpoints, also can connect to on-prem vCenter and other clouds. Protection, integrated with NSX, NSXT, we can provide dynamic firewalling. Integrating with AVI Load Balancer, we can provide web app firewalling. Integrating with Cloud Director availability, we can provide disaster recovery replication. Integrating with third-party ecosystem, we can provide backup and restore services. And we now also include IDS, IPS in the network security portfolio, although this isn't integrated into Cloud Director and would need to be a managed service. So to manage scale, you need to really manage more with less. And cloud is growing, as we've kind of all seen. Typically, most service providers, their operations teams are growing a bit, but not growing at the same rate as cloud is growing. So you need to be able to deliver the same quality of services with the same resources you have. And we ran some research with IDC out to our cloud partners, who reported back a 31% benefit in FTE from a time-saving perspective to deliver the equivalent services with Cloud Director. So a huge benefit to managing more with less and utilizing the automation. Let's have a quick look at focus and where focus needs to be. As as Stuart alluded to, selling infrastructure as a service is a highly competitive market. Selling specialization with applications, professional services, and managed services is where there is much more margin and revenue. If we look at selling infrastructure services alone, broadly said, infrastructure is similar between clouds. Therefore, you could get into the price discounting for customers, where there's little differentiation. It's going to be a hard sell potentially. If you're selling professional services, then obviously you're helping the customer come on board to your cloud with cloud migration professional services, which could also be linked to assessment professional services, or should be. And this means you're going to spin the wheel faster. You're going to use your infrastructure quicker, and you're going to obviously then realize more revenue over the contract term if you can get the cloud provider on to your platform faster. Managed services is where the real key is, and this is really around monthly recurring revenue and generating additional managed services on top of your services today. This means you need skills and resources. You need the resources to do perhaps advanced analytics services. You need maybe perhaps partnership with other companies to do things like data lake services. The key here is perhaps not to try and do everything yourself, but set up partnership arrangements with solution integrators and specialists who can assist you with your customers at monetization needs. Driving down your deployment times, this is again around optimization, and these are some of the average deployment times seen with a reduction in deployment time, seen with Cloud Director through the automation and integration that Cloud Director has. So from a networking perspective, you don't need to go to NSX and set up all of the NSX networking. You can set it up through Cloud Director. You can use policies to make things simpler to deliver and faster to deliver. The same with compute, same with security, and the same with storage. Cloud Director is really focused on making things faster for the provider admin to set up, but also be able to provide the tenant admin their own capabilities to create their own virtual data center resources and infrastructure. Therefore, self-service, some customers really want self-service. They want to be in control of their own destiny. This is perhaps a good thing. It drives more operational efficiencies for you, the cloud provider, because you're not having to deliver this for them. You're letting them do it themselves. But also, it also provides a bit of segregation between you and the customer. And it might be a good thing then to understand more about your customer, so you can then start engaging with managed services rather than just delivering the infrastructure alone. So let's focus on expanding your offerings with Cloud Director extensibility. As I already mentioned, Tenant App is key to providing your tenants with visibility into their cloud consumption in BCD. Tenant App can provide monitoring, basic monitoring of the org VDCs, the VApps, the VMs, the alerts. Lots of different kind of metrics are available there. You can expose chargeback, which could be useful for tenants that want to see their pricing and how much they're consuming, what cost. And like I said, you can deliver custom reporting. This is a real opportunity for cloud providers to upsell a customer who may be on infrastructure only with additional visibility and feedback and application potentially visibility into apps they're using. Now, if you started with managed services and you perhaps did the custom on-prem assessment, you then perhaps help the customer with the migration, and then now in your Cloud Director environment, you pretty much know what applications they're using from the assessment. You could then look up in vRealize automation, operations, what support packs there are for those applications, and provide this as an additional managed service. So there's plenty of opportunity to deliver more capability and benefits to customers using monitoring. And data protection, Cloud Director availability is a very simple to deploy plugin, just like all these things are plugins in the extensibility framework. This enables you to deliver DR as a service, up to 1 minute RPO, full tenant self-service, a synchronous product where a customer can use either end, source or the target, to run DR and migration services. We support through vSphere plugin, a very simple way for a customer to deploy the plugin on-prem and to then configure replication protections to the cloud, to your cloud, and also to run migrations, cold or warm migrations to the cloud, to your VCD instance. Cloud Director service now supports Cloud Director availability. It supports it as a one-way migration only to VMware Cloud and AWS. But with the release of Google Cloud VMware Engine and Cloud Director support for that, we also support Cloud Director availability in that environment. So that means you can run DR and migration to and between Google Cloud VMware instances and Cloud Director on-premise. Really a very capable product, very simple to use. We've had massive success with it. We've got about 400 partners, I believe, using it now. A huge volume of VMs being protected, and we see a large volume of migrations. Protections are, pretty reasonable in terms of price, only 10 points per protection per month. Migrations are free. So you can use Cloud Director availability to migrate your customers to and from cloud, and you can use that at zero cost. Container services and dev-ready cloud requirements. We have a solution called the Container Service Extension. It is an extensibility plugin that basically gives VCD access to underlying Kubernetes, whether that's native Kubernetes, Kubernetes grid for vSphere, or Kubernetes grid for multi-cloud, TKGS and TKGM. This has been around for about 1.5 years now, maybe longer. So it's a pretty mature product. It continues to be a forefront product for cloud providers who want to deliver Kubernetes clusters as a service. And that's, the basic service you can provide. And that's provided with Container Service Extension and Tanzu Basic, which is available for free within the Flex Core. Actually, it's an add-on to Flex Core, but it's a free add-on. And now we support Tanzu Standard, Tanzu Data Services, Tanzu Application Platform, which is Tanzu Mission Control, and Tanzu Standard. These are also all available. So in a nutshell, those aren't available, by the way, through CSE today, but they are available as additional services. In a nutshell, what this means is you can start delivering very advanced application services for containers to your tenants inside your data center. This is really important if you're looking at a customer's requirement to be within their region, within their environment, maybe a sovereign cloud environment, but also for customers who are a little bit hesitant about putting their data into hyperscalers. This provides a really nice solution for our cloud providers to deliver the latest and greatest capabilities from Tanzu into their data center. Accelerated computing, so AI, ML, workload requirements that have very, very intensive GPU work. This is now fulfilled by NVIDIA AI Enterprise and integration with vSphere and Cloud Director. Basically, in a nutshell, we utilize the NVIDIA capability with vSphere and we expose it into Cloud Director. What's really cool about that is that we can provide vGPU. This means like virtual GPU. So we can split up GPU resources amongst tenants to help them deliver the service they want without actually having to have an entire GPU dedicated to them. There are, some requirements here in terms of hardware versions, in terms of NVIDIA supported GPU and NVIDIA drivers. So basically, if your vSphere environment today supports the NVIDIA GPU, then you can look at delivering GPU services. This does require you to have a partnership with NVIDIA, so you need to sign up to their partner program. It's a zero cost from a VMware perspective. The cost is all with the NVIDIA GPU, so you perhaps buy those through your OEM, and the NVIDIA AI Enterprise partnership that you have to be able to use the AI Enterprise tools and operators. So just a quick nod there, why would I use NVIDIA AI Enterprise tools versus just the free tools that you can find online? The NVIDIA AI Enterprise tools are tuned to their cards for performance and security. And most of all, they're supported. So NVIDIA actually support their instances of TensorFlow, Rapids, PyTorch, etc. And they support them for 3 years from time of publishing. This is really important for obviously enterprises that want to deliver the most secure AI ML solution that they can, and giving their data scientists access to the best tooling. So this supports obviously multiple use cases. AI and ML is one, but also VDI is the other. So AI ML, is going to be growing. We want our cloud providers to deliver a future-proof platform to be able to utilize high-performance compute, and we expect this to, meet the 60% of all accelerated infrastructure for performance-intensive workloads being cloud-based in 2022. So there's a real drive here in AI and ML. And as more customers start using AI and ML, we need to understand more about the different personas, particularly the data scientist and what the data scientist requires if we're going to be successful. But this is going to, start getting a very competitive area. As more enterprises start benefiting from AI and ML, other enterprises will start being left behind. So we expect to see this growing very fast over the next few years. And in line with that, if you want to, publish NVIDIA applications into your VCD App Launchpad catalog, you can. We do that through the application platform as a service provided by App Launchpad Extensibility. This is a plugin for VCD, or you can use the new App Launchpad service, which is run and managed by VMware, and that's brand new out. Which means that you can achieve better sort of global application portfolio capability rather than it being just in an instance of VCD. So the App Launchpad allows you to have, as I said before, access to the cloud marketplace. You can publish third-party apps in there. Obviously, you have to manage the licensing separately with them. You can publish the NVIDIA AI enterprise applications in there from your partnership with NVIDIA. You need to have the partnership in place before you will gain access to what they call the NGC, the NVIDIA Global Catalog. And you can deliver your own custom apps. We support VMs, VApps, and Helm charts for delivering container-based applications as well. Object storage, object storage supports a multitude of use cases, but typically media, long-term storage. AWS has multiple levels of object storage service, and that's great if you're running in hyperscale. But if you're running in an on-premise environment in a provider, you need to be able to provide an object storage service because, one, it enables developers to be able to use the object storage via an API, which is much more friendly for them. But two, it caters for better for things like longer term storage. Today, we have an extensibility called the Object Storage Extension. It is an extensible plugin that is also extensible. It comes with a kit to build your own extensibility if you've got a different vendor or you've got your own object storage service. Today, we support Cloudian, and Cloudian can be delivered as a software appliance, or if you want better performance and scale, you have to use the Hyper, I can't remember the name of it. It's an appliance from Cloudian that provides really good functionality in terms of performance and scale, but also in terms of high availability. Hyperstore, that's what it's called, Hyperstore. We also support Dell ECS, and we support Ceph. But as Stuart said earlier, you can't solve all your customer needs. You need to partner more. This is really important to deliver the new application modernization skills you're going to need, the specializations you're going to need to complete your customer capabilities. And we have a strong ecosystem of extensibility offerings. We have data protection services, Veeam, Cohesity, Rubrik, Dell, Commvault. They all have a plugin to Cloud Director that looks and feels like Cloud Director. So there's two levels of extensibility you can deploy in Cloud Director. You could build your own here. You could simply pull in a UI into the Cloud Director instance. Okay, it doesn't look very nice, but it achieves an outcome. Or you can use the API of the target product and code that with the extensibility framework so that the target product looks and feels like Cloud Director. So it gives the customer a sustained user experience wherever they are in Cloud Director. And obviously we can help you do that. We've got lots of partners who have done this themselves and are actually delivering custom services through Cloud Director extensibility. So extensibility can bring you huge amounts of benefits. We have a lot of automation capability, particularly through our Terraform provider, which continues to provide more coverage for Cloud Director capabilities. This often lags a little bit behind Cloud Director releases, as you would expect, but it's designed to really help providers deliver that infrastructure as code experience to developers who need infrastructure. And like I say, additional service offerings are available. You can make that customer experience consistent with that UI extensibility. And you also use our public APIs to provide additional functionality if you like. And these extension endpoints can end up pretty much anywhere, in the customer's data center, in context menus, within VCD. You can right click and add different context menus, and you can also use top level navigation. So very customizable, extensible UI experience for cloud providers. I mentioned at the beginning security. Security is particularly important. We have a lot of different capabilities in terms of security, most of which comes from our NSX portfolio. So things like data encryption is now available in VCD. You can encrypt VMs. We've got partnership with a partner called Fortanix for multi-tenanted key management as a service. This is a very comprehensive solution from Fortanix, particularly relevant for our sovereign cloud providers, perhaps. We also have NSX IDS IPS that's in the portfolio. And apologies why that is replicated twice on this slide, but it is. As I discussed, we have disaster recovery, data protection, edge VPN services, edge firewall services. Don't just consider edge firewalling to be the best kind of solution for your customers. That only polices north-south entry and exit into the virtual data center. You need to provide protection within that data center for things like malware, which may start in a VM behind the firewall and then spread east or west within the VDC and compromise the VM. So distributed firewall, dynamic firewall policies, DMZ and IP services are all kind of native to Cloud Director. Container ingress firewalling, something that we deliver with NSX Advanced Load Balancer, and traffic flow analysis. I've done a number of Feature Fridays looking at vRealize Network Insight. This is slightly out the realm of Cloud Director, but vRealize Network Insight is a fantastic tool. If you don't want to manage the actual product itself, we have vRealize Network Insight for cloud. Very simple to deploy, gives you instant visibility on traffic flow, and also really gives you a good understanding of security posture, whether you're using that for an assessment or whether you want to use that as a managed service in your cloud. So a little bit about cloud economics and Cloud Director. I've spoken a little bit about resource pools, but basically what Cloud Director in a nutshell offers you the ability to do is create what we call provider resource pools, or PVDCs. This is basically the aggregation of underlying resources, compute, memory, and storage from the underlying hardware, which the provider then can carve up into resource pools, which can then be offered to customers. And customers can use one or more resources from one or more provider VDCs. So a customer virtual data center is relying on the resources from the provider virtual data center. And that means that the provider virtual data centers are really providing that multiple tenancy to deliver customers compute, network, and storage and memory requirements in a multi-tenanted way. And the economics really comes down to consumption models. We have 4 consumption models within Cloud Director. Start with pay as you go. This is a simple way to have a customer test the environment. This is good for variable workloads, and you can create different kind of t-shirt sizes for it. Start with an allocation pool. This allows you to set a limit on the available resources that you wish the customer to have access to, but allow them to burst over that limit if they need to. And VMware scheduling engine is one of the best in the world at doing the scheduling to ensure there is no interruption on other customer resources. Or if you wish, if the customer really wants it, a dedicated reservation pool. Here you're giving the resources to the customer says they want, whether they use them or not. This is really great for the customer because they always have those resources available, guaranteed. Not so great for the cloud provider because you're not achieving any cloud economics. You really need to think about allocation pools and think about the SLAs in terms of the allocation pools, and monitor the customer usage so you can see what allocation pools may need changing, may need more resources assigned to them or less based on what the tenant ends up owning and using. And lastly, the flex allocation. This basically supports all of the allocation configurations, and you can choose which aspects of them you wish to use. So you can basically gain a lot more fine-grained performance at the workload level, better control of memory overheads, and you can be very strict on the bursting capabilities, all predefined. In terms of consolidation, you can considerably improve your economics by consolidating and providing a single view of all your resources. Cloud Director enables you to connect different dedicated private clouds and public clouds together into a single instance where you can see the utilization and management across those different clouds. So what if you need global coverage for cloud for your tenant? Your tenant has multiple sites perhaps across the globe. So this is where you should look at Cloud Director service. Basically, VMware has partnered with various hyperscale providers and is delivering bare metal services based on SDDC, VMware Cloud Foundation within their data centers. So typical example of that is the one that VMware runs and manages, which is VMware Cloud and AWS. More recently, we have our partnership with Google Cloud, which is a solution they manage. And we obviously have partnerships with AWS, Oracle, Alibaba, and others. In the program today, for our cloud partners, we have only got availability for VMware Cloud and AWS, and as of last month, Google Cloud. These are based on the Cloud Foundation, and basically it's going to give you, a cloud provider, the ability to spin up that Cloud Director service instance and then connect to either a Google Cloud VMware Engine instance, Perhaps the customer has an existing relationship with Google and wants that cloud adjacency to Google, or a VMware Cloud and AWS instance where the customer may want to use AWS native services as well. Or they may just want geographic coverage for their sites, which may be global. And this obviously has a number of advantages. You, the service provider, are not managing the underlying Cloud Director infrastructure, nor are you managing the underlying VCF and the software lifecycle of the VMware components. So you're gaining a lot of operational savings. It is completely customizable. You can provide a very, very customized dashboard with your own branding and your own colors and deliver a unified tenant experience. Cloud Direct Service also connects to on-premise vCenter and also to VCD through site association. And here's a picture kind of summing it up. On the left, we've got Cloud Direct Service via a new SSL reverse proxy connecting to Google Cloud VMware Engine, via proxy VM to VM Cloud on AWS, via multi-site pairing to a VMware Cloud Director instance, or via the SSL reverse proxy again to on-premise vCenter instances. So really giving your tenants that unified experience. In terms of coverage, there's too many points for me to actually put on a diagram here. So I kind of put the major areas. You can see we've got great coverage in West Coast of America, great coverage in the East Coast, some coverage in South America. EMEA has got quite a lot of coverage. We've got coverage in India, in Tokyo, and in Sydney. As more regions come online for AWS, VMware Cloud and AWS, or Google Cloud VMware Engine, you will have connectivity to those from Cloud Direct Service. The only rule that we mandate is the connectivity between Cloud Direct Service and the remote site must be less than 150 millisecond latency. Otherwise, user experience cannot be guaranteed. So what does this allow you to do with Cloud Direct Service? You've got that asset-light geo expansion. You've got the monitoring and chargeback via tenant app. You've also got the extension services. Now, it's important to remember that not all hyperscale partners have the same flavor of VMware Cloud Foundation. Some, like VMware Cloud and AWS, are more strict on security and APIs than others. So various extensions need to be validated before you go ahead and deploy them. This is all documented, obviously, on our Cloud Director Service site, but the amount of extension services doesn't really differentiate to the amount of extension services you have on VMware Cloud on-prem. You have association, object storage, network security, data protection, app launchpad, TKG, and migration and DR. And this single service pane really allows a provider to kind of limit the number of operational tasks they're providing, meet the customer expectations, access to all the cloud resources, deliver a catalog of services, extend with your custom services, provide that single entry point to multiple clouds, and deliver it with metering and chargeback. From a networking and security perspective, there is huge operational savings here. Task effort to deploy, 84%. Capital investment using virtualized NSX resources rather than hardware, 52%. Faster time to cycle in terms of days, if you consider change control windows and things like that, take weeks. This is a 97% improvement using Cloud Director integrated servicing. Obviously, to onboard customer, you can use things like Terraform, the API, infrastructure as code, and typically we see an 8.7 typical customer deployment go to 3.8 hours. There's a couple of references here from different cloud providers. You can read the IDC paper, searching for the link on our website, on our cloudsolutions.vmware.com, in the multi-cloud section, which is basically the cloud provider section. You'll see an IDC paper here, and there's a lot of great references around Cloud Director and the impact it's had operationally, the impact it's had on revenue, and how service providers have really benefited from Cloud Director delivering more diverse services to a customer base. So it looks like I'm bang on time. The last slide I have is, we've spoken a lot about the importance of services, of managed services, and of partnership. The platform choice you make needs to be future-proof. It needs to be able to be extensible. It needs to be able to be hybrid, and hybrid across multiple clouds, hybrid for vSphere-based clouds. It needs to be intelligent, understand, and be able to monitor itself and provide elasticity for growth in a customer virtual data center resources and application bursting. Cloud Director delivers that one platform that we believe is the best platform out there for delivering all of this. It's been around for 11 years now. Like I said, we've got about 1,200 partners using it. Those partners are showing the strongest increases in revenue over other partners. We continue to extend it and to expand its capability, with Cloud Director Service being a great example of that. And the future for Cloud Director is to be the VMware cloud provider platform of choice for delivering services to VMware, to their customers or partners. Whew, okay, that's it from me. So was there any Q&A before we wrap up?
So there was a question, Guy, and many thanks for that very in-depth insight into how Cloud Director Services and Cloud Director can help our partners move forward within the partner transformation and offer new services. There was one question that came from one of the attendees. Tenant app can monitor services in a VM. That's a question.
Can it monitor services in your VM? No, so Tenant app out the box will give you basic monitoring services about the VDC. So you'll see, the stats around memory, compute, storage utilization at the VDC level. That's what Cloud Director is delivering, that VDC footprint. For the VMs within the VDC, you should consider using vRealize operations and providing more visibility into like the VMs and the applications within the VMs with application management packs within vRealize operations.
Thanks, Guy. So a further question is, so how does a customer monitor the services?
So within Tenant app, they'll see chargeback, they'll see basic org VDC performance and metrics there. You can extend Tenant app with custom reporting. There's some feature Fridays on this if anyone's interested in watching them on our YouTube channel. Basically, you configure the report in vRealize operations that you want to give to the customer, and then you grab the URL of that report and then you publish it to the Tenant app for that customer. So that in the Tenant app, the customer will see a URL, they'll click on that and it will launch in context of vRealize operations and show them the report.
I think that provides a very succinct response. There was a hand raised during the session, and I don't know whether the attendee is still on. That was from Heide Marie. I don't know whether you want to still ask a question, Heide Marie.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I'll unmute and see if the person wants to ask. Nope. I think that was it, Guy.
Okay.
But thank you, everybody, for staying for the duration. I see many of you did obviously remain on the session, and it was providing you with an informative insight into how to transform going forward in this evolution of digital transformation as a partner. And for Guy, providing us with an in-depth insight in how to accelerate services using Cloud Director, whether you're a cloud builder or using the asset light version with Cloud Director services. But please feel free to reach out to ourselves directly through, obviously, your aggregators will be the key, obviously, endpoints in terms of asking any further questions or looking at any of the technologies that we have within our portfolio. But I think if there isn't any further questions, I'd like to obviously express my thanks for Stuart in joining us this morning. It was very insightful, not only for VMware, but also for you, the partners and the aggregators, in terms of where your responsibilities and actions lie going forward in this change, and also for Guy to provide an insightful opportunity around cloud services, Cloud Director. So with that, I'll close the session. And for those that are hitting, obviously that lunch period, please enjoy your lunch. And for the rest, enjoy the rest of your day. Many thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.